background of all that, depending on where you are with the firm, you've got people to give feedback to, you've got to get feedback yourself. So it's really just a juggling act.
And when did you go to Esher College? You didn't say, actually.
Oh, sorry. So 2014 I left. 2012 I joined.
Yeah. And what about your education highs and lows? We talked about that. What are your best bits of education journey? So
Esher College, definitely the people. It was really refreshing to come there from a school where they had a sixth form and to meet a complete vast variety of new people. I haven't gone on to university with barely any of them, or to the same university, but I'm still in contact with a good number of them, which has been really nice because people have gone on to do a number of things. And then looking on to university, I guess highs were coming out with a good result. Again, coming out with a good group of friends from university, and then rolling onto a graduate job in the end.
And I remember talking to you in our discussion on LinkedIn about this sort of the fact that you got rejected a couple of times, didn't you, from your apprenticeships, didn't you?
So yeah, the first year I applied to KPMG, I was rejected, but I hadn't really done anything in business or economics or anything of that background before. I was purely maths based. So I worked on that for a year, and then just because of the way things turned out, ended up at Deloitte. They opened up the application process first, and then found myself back at KPMG, having been batted down the first time round.
Yeah, I suppose that's just a very good insight for students to know that it's not easy, is it? So just to keep trying and keep looking at different opportunities. Okay, I think that was great. Thanks, Jesse. Over to you, Zoe. What about your journey?
Hi, Kat.
Hi.
So I'm definitely the more experienced older one here on this. I went to Esher in 1992, which is a long time ago. I've been now working in advertising for about 20 years. When I started out, when I was at school at college, I always knew I wanted to work something in media or in creative. I didn't really know what. My dad was a marketing director, so I had a little bit of insight into marketing. But at Esher College, I sort of chose quite traditional route in. I did English, history, French A-level. It didn't quite go to plan. I failed my French A-level, sadly, much to my tutor at the time's up distress. But I got placed through clearing at Anglia Ruskin University, doing English and communication studies. And it turned out to be a really fantastic degree because I did a lot of practical stuff, video production, film production, understood about media advertising, as well as all the academic grounding in communication theory. In the holidays, I temped as a receptionist in loads of media and creative agencies. So by the time I graduated, I had a fairly good understanding of advertising and the kind of job I might want to do. I bypassed all the graduate recruitment programs because I was a little bit late. I think I was having too much fun at uni. I found myself at a small design agency in Covent Garden, and I started as an account exec. It's probably worth at this point sort of sharing a little bit. If you don't know about advertising, it's not just people who come up with the ideas. That wasn't me. It's split into two areas. The people I call the making it happen, the ones who come up with the ads, come up with the design, come up with the copy. And there are the people that I call the making it happen, which is people like me who are an account handler. They look after the clients and they make the money, so to speak. After 3 years at my first agency, I absolutely loved it. But I was doing quite small stuff, design, tube posters, and I really wanted to get into doing some TV. That's why everyone goes into advertising, to make telly so they can show their mum what they do. So I joined bigger agencies. I got to work on things like EE, launching EE, the brand in the UK, goo puddings, which was fun. And then also sort of slightly more kind of, I guess, charity work, like for Refuge, for example. So some stuff that's kind of got to not just selling product as such. It's a really varied career. No one day is the same. You can be helping on a photo shoot. You can be wining and dining clients. I mean, the highs are the fact that I couldn't quite believe when I started, people actually paid you to do this. Apartment in Amsterdam, traveled all the time. It's a really social and people-focused job, really good fun. That said, the stereotypes are quite true. It's really long hours. I'd often be at work till 11 o'clock, midnight on a Friday night. For a new business pitch, I'll be in there at the weekends. So that's quite tough. It's no 9 till 5, but hopefully that's changing over time. It's probably one of the reasons, though, why 4 years ago, I've got a young family now, I moved into recruitment and started working for companies, helping people get jobs in advertising as such.
And what have you been doing in lockdown then? Because you said you were, what has happened while you've been in lockdown with the advertising industry? What have you been furloughed? Are you?
So it's so interesting. I mean, I guess I recruit for advertising agency now. I've been in furlough since March. I'm actually back 1 day a week from today, actually, funnily enough. And that's reflective of the fact if people aren't spending money and retail shops aren't open and brands aren't spending, there is no advertising. No one's spending the money. But I think I've been talking to lots of candidates and lots of agencies getting ready for when there is a lift, and there will be. As soon as consumer confidence comes back, brands will want to start advertising. They want to be top of mind again. Yeah,
okay, fantastic. Do you want to share your tips?
Sure.
Now, because you've got some really nice insights here, or what to do. Here you go. Can you see it?
Cool.
Put it full screen. So share this for any students that are thinking about going into advertising. Then these are brilliant.
So I think, I mean, the good thing with working as a recruiter is hopefully I'm pretty well placed now to give anyone any advice about how to get into advertising and evolve their career. But I think in lockdown, I mean, the main thing I would say to get into advertising, you want to get into an agency and do some work experience there. And that's the long-term plan. But right now, if that's not so easy, there are lots of places that you can do research and start finding out about what careers there are in advertising. So good places are websites like the IPA and the Account Planning Group. They've got lots of video content, lots of interviews with people, lots of campaigns that you can look up. There's advertising press, so things like Campaign and The Drum are all online and will give you all the news and stories about advertising campaigns and agencies. Another thing I suggest is social media is really important. You should have a presence yourself if you're interested in it, but also all the big agencies and brands are all on there. If you love the KFC ad, follow Mother, the agency who makes it, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And I think as you start to get a grounding and understand a bit more about advertising, it's so easy to access people on LinkedIn. So don't be afraid. People email me all the time on LinkedIn, ask me advice on it. You do with various different peoples and agencies. They just want to hear enthusiasm and they want to help generally.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn later, actually, for our alumni. Well, in general, everything we're doing is going to be on LinkedIn, and students that are leaving 6.2 specifically should be on LinkedIn if they're not already. So we'll talk about that at the end, how important it is for making connections in the industry. So thank you for that. Next, we're going to talk to Brandon. So Brandon, tell us your story. Hello.
I actually joined when I think Jesse said he left, so I joined in 2014 and left in 2016. I personally, the best memory that I had from the time was one of the subjects I did was history.
Yeah.
So I did history, psychology, business, and I did economics for 1 year.
Yeah. When did you leave? Esher? When did you leave Esher? Esher College.
2016.
2016. Okay.
Yeah, 2016. Yeah. So at the time it was kind of like a mixed bag because I really enjoyed psychology, I really enjoyed business, and I really enjoyed history. So I didn't really know where I was going to go with that. But one of my favorite memories actually came from the history class because during that time I got to go and visit Auschwitz and really discover that part of history, which has always kind of been interesting to me. And then along with that, we also, me and a few other people, created an event to have a Holocaust survivor speak to the history department. And that for me will always be a defining time from when I was there. But then, in 2016, I left and joined uni. It was quite daunting at first because nobody from college joined me. So it was a completely different slate. A few school friends from secondary school joined me in college, so I didn't have that in uni. But no, luckily it was quite good because the degree that I did was entrepreneurship, so business entrepreneurship was my degree. I decided to go down the business route. And it was really good because the class was quite small, so it was nice and easy to gel with people, kind of come out your shell a bit. And so the journey from starting uni and then finishing uni was quite a long and twisted one. Kind of, there was a lot of highs academically, but then there was also a lot of lows, kind of figuring myself out and figuring who you are, and
Yeah.
you know, a lot of personal growth as well. And so something I would definitely say going forward is to not underestimate the other effects of uni. So it's a great place to learn academically, and obviously you learn a lot with the subjects that you do, whatever subject that you do, but there's also a lot of personal growth that goes with that. So yeah, so that was quite a defining moment. And then kind of fast forwarding, I graduated in July last year. It's almost been a year. It's the 10th of July. I graduated. And then during that year, it was some ups and downs, because I hoped to join or start a business and join a career straight away. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And for a lot of people, that didn't happen. So it was kind of like a reality check coming out of uni. It's like, it's all gone. All the support, the bubble of uni is kind of gone. So you kind of have to really figure yourself out where you want to be. So that's why I decided to go down the freelance route, because I always enjoyed running my own business, and that was I still had very entrepreneurial drive from then. So I kind of decided to merge my love of writing, which I had never really focused on before, and then obviously do it in a kind of commercial way through freelancing. And then that's kind of the story until now.
Do you want to tell us about your the books that you've written as well, because I can flag those up now. Shall I share them with the group?
Yeah, definitely. I kind of forgot to mention.
Yes, I think
during uni, I think it was the beginning of third year. I kind of had a panic moment of, oh, there they are.
There they are.
I had a panic moment where I kind of realized, oh gosh, like uni is almost over. I remember starting uni like it was yesterday, and now we're less than a year away from graduating, and I kind of got into a bit of a creative rut and kind of going a bit crazy. So I thought I'd kind of do something I always wanted to do, which was write a novel, but I wasn't really sure what to write it on. So I was like, I'm going to document all of my university story, you know, from start to finish, include all my friends in it, and kind of make it a really collaborative piece. So then that's the first book, Through My Rose-Tinted Glasses. Kind of covers the first year and then half of second year. So it's mainly a book about kind of coming out and discovering who I am, the personal growth kind of side of things. And then I decided to split it in half, because from second year to third year was a lot of kind of mental health oriented stuff. So kind of managing the switch between, like, you know, realizing uni's almost over. I really need to kind of get a grasp of my career and where I want to go. So there was a lot of inner battles with mental health. So that's where the book Typhoon came along. And then after uni, I kind of had a break. I didn't write anything. I'm like, I'm noveled out. I was like, I need a bit of a break. And then it was I think it was around September time 2019. I had an idea for my book that I'm working on currently, which is The Enigma. And I thought, you know, I'd never done anything like a fiction book before. The first two books were about my life and kind of autobiographical. So I thought, let me try and tackle that and kind of create a story, because I had an idea in my mind for a while about kind of an apocalyptic kind of style thing, but more focusing on the power play between different types of people. And then it's quite funny, because the context of the book is a pandemic, and then I'm planning to release it in August, and we're in a pandemic. So that wasn't exactly the original plan, but it's kind of funny how it turned out that way. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
That's brilliant. And I was going to say, your creativity in lockdown, how has it been as a writer? You know, how much work have you been able to develop?
Personally, I actually was quite surprised. I thought the first couple of weeks was a bit difficult because I'm quite an outdoorsy person, so I like to go out and meet people. I like to go and I walk around and just discover different places. So kind of being locked in done my head in a bit. But then I kind of just decided to channel that. I'm like, this is a once in a lifetime thing, hopefully. Never going to get this immense time again. So I might as well kind of channel this annoyance and put in it a creative way. So I was like, let me just really push out this book. I've been working on it for a while. Let me just dedicate this time. And then coming up to more recently, I found as the economy is starting to open and more businesses are starting to open, I've got a kind of influx of clients wanting some work. So I think it's getting a lot better, and it's had its advantages, but it's also been quite difficult at times. It's not always been easy. You kind of have to. Sometimes I've sat there in front of my computer and kind of have to force myself, like, let's be productive.
Have you also been writing, sort of creating content? Is that another freelance sort of income stream that you have along with your writing? Is that right?
Yeah. So again, more so recently, just before lockdown, I started a Patreon page. I've done a few other. Well, I've been blogging for many years. But yeah, I've also been doing that as well on the side. Kind of sneak peeks about my book and giving updates about just lockdown life in general. So yeah, I've kind of just been trying to keep myself occupied because I found if I kind of didn't, I would lose my mind. I was like, I really need to kind of get my hands into something.
I was going to say that leads on to a question I have about any budding writers that are out there. Do you feel it's good to sort of just create content and put it out there on social media? Is that a good way to practice becoming a writer? What's your advice for any budding writers out there to try and get some visibility?
I definitely would say so. I think a lot of the time, people that I know personally have been kind of very reluctant to write. They're like, oh, I'm really bad at writing. I can't write. My essays are really bad, and I can't do it. So I was like, well, I've not had any professional experience in writing. All my corporate kind of path has always been marketing and business. So writing for me has always been a hobby. So I've had to teach myself everything that I know. Up until recently, in the last year or two, is the only time where I've actually done it professionally. So I've kind of been pushing people to, I'm just like, just write it down. I'm quite gifted in the fact where I can kind of create a story quite quickly, but many people I know take years to write a book or even to write just something small. But then at the end of it, it's rewarding because you're proud of it and it's something that you've worked on. So I definitely say just go for it. And even if you feel it's bad, the more you write, the more you'll perfect yourself.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. I'm sure I'll have some questions to come back to with all of you. But Weronika, you're next. You're our youngest alumna. You just graduated or left Esher in 2017, is that right? So what have you been up to?
2019.
2019, that's when you started.
2019, yeah.
So you have been, you've had quite an interesting story, haven't you, in terms of what you're doing? Tell us what you've been up to.
So I left Esher College and I thought of doing a photography degree in either Bourne or Brighton University. And then during the summer, I worked as a freelance photographer for Stephen Ty, who is a London designer. And I loved working, but at the same time, I realized that photography is something I can always pick up. It can be my hobby. Also, I was really scared that after graduating, I will not have a job that pays enough to pay the bills and the rent.
Yeah.
I had to think of something else. And I thought, actually, I always wanted to do interior design. So I had to go for clearing, but I didn't. I think I missed by 3 UCAS points to get into the undergraduate course. So I had to do a foundation degree.
Yeah.
So I think that year of doing foundation degree, that I also had to pay for. Most of them are free, but I had to pay full amount for it. I think that was the biggest struggle because also my university, it was the first time that they run a foundation diploma in art and design. So we're kind of like the test rabbit. So I also became a student rep. So I tried to help kind of get the course back on its feet and feedbacking to the tutors and the head of the design school what it is that we need or want and what we want to learn. So it was quite an exciting journey, but it was quite tiresome as well, because, you know, I had to get the feedback from the students, feed it back to everyone else, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But it felt like I actually, you know, stood apart in my course and also in university. So that was quite nice. And I haven't had a job since September. I've always been working since I've been 16. And I came here and there was no retail jobs, nothing. I wanted a part-time job, like, you know, waitressing, retailing, something small. And all of a sudden, I applied for a job that was that just said, oh, we need someone to create a website for us. And I was like, oh, that's easy. And I came to the interview and they actually said, oh, well, we need someone, we have the website now, but we need someone to do our marketing and social media and run it all for us because we don't have the time. And I was like, wow, just sign me up.
Yeah. So that's what you've been doing.
That's what I've been doing. I'm a marketing director now for a small local company called Premier Meats up in Northeast.
Yeah.
We have 4 stores based around Newcastle. And most of the things I do, I come to the office at 9. I get the website running, do the numbers, see what kind of deals we have on that day, promote it on Facebook, try and analyze what kind of engagement we're getting on social media as well as on the website, see what people are after, push it to them, you know, kind of create, because we're a small business, it's nice to create that sense of community on our social media. So we try to interact as much as possible, do sometimes giveaways, show our appreciation because the company has been running for 35 years.
Yeah.
That's what I've been up to, and it's a super thing to have on my resume. I will have to, unfortunately, finish the job in September once I go back to university, because it is important. But it is something that I think will really help me in my future career.
Brilliant. And do you use LinkedIn a lot to try and gain new opportunities? Yeah.
It was actually my mum that pushed me. As soon as I left college, she said, set up LinkedIn. You've done so many things in regards to photography. Just do it, connect with people, see how it goes. And I have been connecting, and actually I have had a new job proposition in marketing via LinkedIn yesterday, but I'm not going to be able to take it because it is full time, unfortunately.
So, well, that's a nice position.
But it is nice to feel recognised. It's nice to have those kind of connections with people, knowing that you can just reach out to them. Also, I think LinkedIn opens a whole new world for you in terms of possibilities, articles. Also, you know, you can find a job on there, but also I think it's nice to just see what other people are out there in the industry that you're interested in, and see how they got there, because they have their whole work history on there. So,
well, you all have, well, 4 of you out of the 5 are featured. Zoe's going to feature at some point when she's got the time on our LinkedIn articles for alumni. But yeah, it's great. It's great to find opportunities online like that. And there's anything else you want to talk about? I mean, that's really kind of sums up your career. I mean, you've done a lot in a short space of time.
I know.
I'm very impressed.
Esher College, and it's just been going up and up, and it's exciting. It's really exciting, and I hope it leads somewhere.
Fantastic. No, well, definitely. Yeah. And then it's over to Conor. Hi, Conor. You
hi guys, you're right.
Very interesting story, I think. You're the kind of our business owner, entrepreneur, I'd like to call it, of the group, because you have, you know, you went to traditional university, did finance, but then you obviously started your own business. And most of the students probably know your business. So I'll let you explain what you've done in your career. Just start by telling them when you actually went to Esher.
Yeah, so I left Esher College in 2011, I think. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I think it was 2011, so 9 years ago. After that, went to university in Brighton and did a maths degree. Always thought, I was always good at maths and always thought I was going to do sort of a finance-based role. Completed the maths course and followed through with that plan of doing a finance role. and ended up absolutely hating it. So that plan went straight out the window immediately. So I started moving around different finance roles because I didn't like the office environment for more than sort of 2 months. Did that for about a year, saving money, and went traveling. Came back and decided I needed to do something new. So me and my friend saw an opportunity. He worked in pizza for a long time, and I did the sort of finance side, obviously with my finance and maths background. Joined forces and got a government loan, which I highly recommend actually for anyone who is interested in becoming an entrepreneur, or I don't know, not necessarily becoming an entrepreneur, but has an idea to move forward with. The government loan scheme is really, really worth looking into. We wouldn't have been able to do it without it. It was a really good setup. So we used that and kicked off the Dough Shack, which is what you guys know. We have it in the college every Wednesday. But we started that now nearly 4 years ago with one van, and each year I've managed to buy another van. So it's gone quite well. We've got 4 vans now, and we've got a small pizzeria in Wimbledon. So that's kind of the history of the Dough Shack.
I mean, you've had quite, in lockdown, you said to me, you've done really well.
Yeah, we got really fortunate actually. Ironically, everyone else business-wise seems to be struggling. We've done really, really well because of lockdown. Everyone's gone towards the takeaway side of things, so numbers have gone better for us, which means we've got the 4th van in construction now underway. So it's really, really fortunate. I feel I feel really blessed given the situation. I know everyone's having a hard time, and I got super lucky. But about it's coming up to just over a year now. We got enough employees where I was able to take a step back from working on the vans. So my business partner and employees now run the things on the vans, and I'm able to just run the finances, which has been a bit of a dream of mine for a while. So now I can work remotely. I'm doing this webcast from Amsterdam, but I was in Colombia for quarantine. I just managed to get a humanitarian flight back here, with plans to come back soon. Yeah, really, really fortunate. The other thing to mention in my career is about a year and a half ago, I launched a cider brewery with a friend. And again, I know nothing about the cider world, but he's been working in that side for a long time. And I came in with the finance expertise again. So joined forces and now run a small brewery, still very small, for very new, in Wimbledon as well. So that's a second business called Against the Grain. So I have those 2 businesses going on. The lesson from my career really is don't worry. If I did a maths degree, I absolutely loved university. Got a 2-1, so average degree. And for anyone going to Brighton, sorry to say it, but I feel like it's a middle ground university, an average university. I ended up not going for the reasons I thought. Like the maths degree, I barely used since. I used it to get a few finance jobs I didn't like. But don't worry if after uni you feel like doing something completely different. It's absolutely fine. And the reasons for going to university ended up not being the maths degree so much as the people I met and living on my own, but that independent feeling. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So I've got a few questions then. I should just
of course.
You separately. So Jesse, you talked about your working day really with KPMG, but can you sort of give the students listening a bit of advice on if they are going down the route of apprenticeship? What's the best way to just go about it? What's the best thing to do if you're thinking about it?
So for the Big Four, obviously I finished speaking KPMG and Deloitte. I spent a bit of time out on an intern. They're corporate giants, so it's impersonal, and you've got to understand that before you're going in for the application side. Like they're trying to remove the personal part, I think, until later on, and because of the volume of applications they get. So you've got to give yourself the best chances in terms of those initial stages, really, by just being on the ball in terms of when those applications open up. I think the best thing you can do is, I think Zoe touched on this, the LinkedIn thing, reaching out to people, speaking to people who are at the companies you're interested in. I don't even know, half the time HR don't know when the exact dates are, but if you're speaking to someone at one of the companies you're interested in, you're more likely to find out when those applications are opening up than having to check all the time yourself or waiting for social media to do it. Again, at university, every time there was campus visits from these companies, and I'm not just talking about the Big Four, I'm talking about across FS, they tended to come too late. You'd go back to your halls or your house the same evening, look on the application site, and London, for example, London I live in anyway, all the applications were closed, but they have to continue to do that round. So I think one, don't worry about not getting an intern, because something else will come around, and it happened to me in the first year, and it wasn't be all and end all. Two, just being proactive. I think being there early, I had an intern approved, which there might have been better people, but they still had the applications open way after I'd already been accepted onto the intern, and they would just allocate on a first come first basis really as well. Besides that, I think again just connecting on LinkedIn and reading the news. Doesn't necessarily have to be a paid service, I think, but keeping up, especially in FS, the interview stages for KPMG and Deloitte was pretty similar. They didn't want anything too focused on audit, because they do appreciate you haven't been working in that job, so how can you tell them the world about it? But they do want to see how you're keen in your own time to keep up to date with what's going on in the business world, and if you're inclined towards a certain sector, then how are you keeping up to date with that sector? So that's what I would say toward that, really.
Fantastic. We've kind of touched upon working remotely, haven't we, in terms of how difficult it is, but in some ways it's been less challenging for some of you. So Brandon, you talked about being inspired in lockdown and writing in lockdown. Is that what you would recommend to any budding writers while they're in lockdown now or at home for the next foreseeable future? What advice would you give them? How would you inspire them? Is there any books you recommend, apart from yours, obviously, but are there any writing, any books that you've followed that were really useful for students?
I'd definitely say to use this time, because it's quite a unique time. Like it's very rare where we have so much kind of like the world of kind of, well, up until recently, completely silent. Just stay at home and work. So I definitely use the time wisely. In terms of books, there's not really one book I'd recommend. Like there's quite a few books that I'd recommend, but I'd definitely just say if you definitely want to write, or you see yourself in that space, I definitely would just say write. Even if it's one piece of advice one of my lecturers in my third year gave me, not in the context of writing, but just in general, which was really useful. It's just when you wake up, I don't know, at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whenever you wake up, and just write down 500 words, just random words. Which is like, it doesn't need to make sense. Just write down what your dream was, or whatever comes to your mind, your to-do list, what you're going to do for the day. And then you'll find out that you can just start. The first one will be quite difficult, but then as you keep doing it, you'll find yourself being able to punch out 500 words of really good work quite easily. So just kind of really training your brain. So I definitely say, in a time like this, where obviously if you are remote working or you're furloughed or you have like time on your hands, I definitely would say, just write random gibberish and just sit there afterwards and make it work.
And is it important to read lots of different current affairs in different contexts, like read The Guardian, read different types of writing? Does that really help inspire you to write in different tone of voices? Is that a good suggestion to students when they're trying to create their own voice? Is that always useful?
I definitely would say to read lots of different perspectives, because obviously some places, whether it's independent or it's BBC or if it's Guardian, every one of the outlets, or if it's just like an independent writer, everybody has their own perspective. So it's quite hard to read something that's completely neutral and just nothing. Like everything will have some sort of twist on it. So I definitely would say to get a lot of information from a lot of different places, and then process it yourself, and then write it how you see fit. Because it took me a long time to put my thoughts into words. I wanted to write a book for many years before I did, but I just saw the size of a book, or saw the size of even a dissertation. I was just like, oh god, I can't write that. Like, that's a lot of words. I don't think I even have that many words to put to a page. But then when you really put your mind to it, and you build a lot of ideas, and you get a lot of ideas from even just your surroundings, then you'll be surprised what you can write, really.
Yeah. And Zoe, I was trying to ask you, you were talking about the creative industry, and you probably can't answer this question, but it's quite interesting for students now. How do you think it's going to change, your prediction for students coming out in the next few years because of this situation? What's your prediction for them?
Well, with my crystal ball, I would say, I mean, do you know, it's really interesting. I think one of the things with this pandemic and lockdown is amazed me is there's quite a lot of positives that have come out of advertising.
Yeah.
It's an industry that was very based on presenteeism, people being in the office all hours, not being in Amsterdam or Colombia or somewhere else, but always being there. And I think that's changed because we've proven in 3 or 4 months that actually you don't have to be in the office, you can be anywhere. And the creativity works online. We've become much more inventive. Things that used to take 6 months to shoot, people have been doing Zoom TV ads overnight, things like that. So I think it's really positive in that respect, and that I'm sort of quite optimistic about how things might evolve. I think from a trends perspective, I think the emphasis on brands wanting to be on TV all the time is probably changing, and I think there's a lot more focus on digital transformation. How do brands behave digitally? What is the customer experience of them digitally? Because that's more important to us at the moment. So yeah, I mean, who knows what will happen? I think the advertising industry will take a while to recover. But I think for those students at the moment, by the time you start moving in towards this, we should be in a much better place.
Well, I think, like, in a way, with Weronika, it's like you are more proactive, like being self-starting and do it yourself, right? And I think that's what will happen with students coming out. You can produce a lot yourself. You don't need big budgets and big clients. You know, you can produce a lot of the work yourself, especially with all the different social media platforms. So it'll be interesting, won't it, to see how that develops in the advertising industry. And then Conor, you talked about your business doing well and it being successful. Do you see any change in the climate for your business in the next 6 months? Do you see it increasing?
Yeah, for sure. Our business model is seasonal anyway, so obviously we get much more trade throughout summer, dips through, and then the low point. We have seen, so obviously with it coming into summer has been busy, but with quarantine as well being the main driving factor, lots of trade.
And what
I hope that we have sufficient. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was going to say, how you go to festivals, don't you, and things like that? Is that right?
We do. We do our regular evening pitches, but we also do weddings, festivals. But we've only done sort of 1 day, 2 day max festivals at the moment. The down payments for larger ones is quite high, and we're still quite a young business. So just the smaller festivals for now, and we do private functions and events. So that's obviously taken a hit in terms of quarantine. We haven't been running those at all. But come winter and early next year, I think we'll see bookings of that again. As I said, we've been fortunate where our evening pitches have made up for those lost sales in the events.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I have asked all the questions actually. I kind of through the whole discussion. So I'm just going to share with you what we're doing for alumni about. Really, this is for the students more than anything, but you're aware that we've created 2 different programs, one on LinkedIn. You can join the alumni program on there, and you can also join a Facebook group now, which we've set up. So if you try to search for these 2 groups, then you'll be able to find them. And I would recommend all students, if you're listening, if you're in 6-2, about to leave, you should definitely join these 2 groups, so you can start following other you'll become an alumni yourself, but you can start following and talking to other experts in the area. You might be able to talk to them through LinkedIn.